Hey everybody, welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Laura Neidigh. I have a quick update on this case that my good friend Omar, the Tilted Lawyer, is involved in. He's taken on this case defending Mike Marraccini against Laura Owens. If you don't know who Laura Owens is, that's a whole thing we'll have to get into later, but her lawyer, David Gingris, is just as crazy as she is. He's been consistently trying to attack random people expressing their opinions online, while also masquerading as a free speech lawyer. That all started to finally come to light after a decade of abuse towards various men when Laura Owens flew too close to the sun in targeting Clayton Echard, who was a recent lead of The Bachelor. So now Rachel Juarez is going to be joining Omar to represent Mike in this case. That was something that people were guessing, but it wasn't really a sure thing until recently. And I know I talk a lot about Omar and how great he is and why I think he's just an amazing person to take Mike's case. He's one of my closest friends, but Rachel's really just one of a kind. So what can I tell you about Rachel to accurately put that into words? First, most of you who will watch this would probably recognize Rachel. She's done a bunch of stuff with Reality Steve, and she's on a TV show called Hot Bench. I had never actually seen the show before, but people heard her on Steve's podcast, and they would ask, "Oh, have you heard this attorney, Rachel, talking about the Laura thing?" For a while, I was like, no, I don't need to listen to some lady talk about this for an hour just to find out that David Gingris is stupid. Like, why would I do that? What makes her so special, you know? But eventually, I listened anyways, and she won me over. Fine. I reluctantly accepted that I didn't think she was lame. But I wasn't thrilled about it, okay? And there was this ongoing issue that Laura's attorney, David Gingris, would try to get on some JFC podcast to debate, and I was so against the idea, like full-fledged, Lauren goes on her soapbox of moral crusades against it. And then I find out that David did actually follow through and agree to the debate, and it was with a lady from Steve's podcast. And that was so annoying, because I didn't want to be on board, I didn't want to listen, I didn't want to have anything to do with it, but at that time, that is who Rachel was. She was Lady from Steve's podcast. And that was like less than 6 months ago. So because Steve found the one person on planet Earth who could change my mind about the thing, I started watching it. I don't think she's ever seen this, and I hope she doesn't. And I don't think she will, luckily, because she has no time for my bullshit. But I'm going to show you guys how it went anyways. So
that it's a deliberately dense reading of the Maintaining Your Defendant.
Deliberately dense.
I might be in love with Rachel, though. I
know.
So that was obviously not serious. And I can pretty much guarantee you I wouldn't say something like that unless I planned to never speak to that person for my entire life. So that was a misfire, because not only am I not in love with her, but I was also like, well, this is not someone whose personal opinion of me I'm ever going to care about. And I was wrong about that too. Because she was smart and she was really funny and personable. And I hate that, because I went from thinking, no, I'm not going to spend my free time listening to some lady talk about shit I already know, to sitting there thinking, I would listen to this woman give a lecture about different types of sparkles and glitter if she wanted to. Like, fuck. But eventually I did talk to her for whatever reason, and I won't bore you with the details, but like she said something to me one day that had nothing to do with Laura or Mike or Clayton or anyone else. And well, actually it was kind of about Justin's case, because it was something about Taylor Swift, but I just remember saying like, where the fuck have you been? Like, we have to be friends. So everything that I've come to know about her has been an absolute privilege. She really is just incredible in every way. She runs her own law practice on the West Coast, and she films a TV show on the East Coast. And it's actually insane that she's a mom and a wife and God knows how many other things. Really, though, I think she should see someone about that, because what the fuck? But who am I to judge? That's her job. So I'm not going to do her work for her. But she's always been kind to me and understanding, and I think she does a lot more good for people than she might realize. When you try to see the good in everyone, it doesn't always go well. Like, I get it wrong a lot, and that sucks, but not this time. So I would thank her for proving me right. I guess I just appreciate having someone around that I have nothing negative to say about. And while it would be nice if Laura would just give up her game and walk away, if she doesn't, then fine. I would bet on Rachel every single time in any scenario. No regrets. So I'll read a little bit from Rachel's declaration here, but I want to be clear that this woman has never endorsed anything that I've said or done. My feelings and thoughts are completely independent. She's in a league of her own that should not be affected by whatever I have to say. I may love her, but I am not a reflection of her. My flaws have nothing to do with her or her character, and I feel like I need to be careful to emphasize that because of how the internet is. So with that said, here is what she had to say about David Gingris ahead of today's emergency hearing. I presently intend to associate into the case on behalf of Mr. Marraccini so that I can assist Mr. Serrato as co-counsel for the upcoming trial. And here she's talking about the call between her, Omar, and David. From the outset of our discussion, Mr. Gingris was speaking rapidly, bouncing quickly from topic to topic. It was often difficult to keep Mr. Gingris focused on matters related to this case, and he often steered our discussion towards a series of legal/personal issues that Mr. Gingris himself was going through at the time, and which he was eager to explain to us. Among those issues was an Arizona State Bar investigation into alleged misconduct on the part of Mr. Gingris involving Mr. Marraccini, specifically an incident on June 10, 2024, in and around an Arizona courthouse. The other personal issues we discussed are not implicated by these proceedings, and I will therefore forego any detailed discussion of them. I do, however, remember the sum and substance of such topics and would be competent to testify about them and if asked to do so. At some point during the phone call, we ended up discussing a concern Mr. Serrato and I had been having, the fact that Mr. Gingris was a percipient witness to disputed events underlying Ms. Owens' renewal request. Based on my review of the file on this matter, Mr. Gingris is a necessary witness with respect to the disputed events of June 10th. This is, of course, the same June 10th incident in Arizona referenced above that Mr. Gingris said was presently the subject of the Arizona State Bar investigation, which explains his status as a percipient witness. As the conversation continued, Mr. Gingris became increasingly distracted and was bouncing from topic to topic, resulting in the discussion that was moving rapidly between this case and Mr. Gingris's personal issues, one of which, as explained above, is the Arizona State Bar investigation into Mr. Gingris that involves Mr. Marraccini. Every few minutes, Mr. Serrato or I gently attempted to bring the discussion back to a potential resolution of this matter that would not require the parties to go to a contested hearing. As is typical in settlement discussions, Mr. Serrato and I explained to Mr. Gingris, both generically and specifically, why we did not believe a live testimony hearing would benefit either party. Specifically, we discussed why we do not believe a trial would benefit Ms. Owens. At some point during our discussion of the disadvantages to the parties of going to trial, Mr. Gingris interjected that it would, in fact, be to his personal benefit for this matter to reach a point where Mr. Marraccini would provide testimony in this case, as opposed to this matter reaching conclusion without Mr. Marraccini or Ms. Owens providing live testimony. Mr. Gingris, who was speaking very quickly and in a somewhat disjointed manner, went on to explain that he believed it would be helpful to his defense of the pending Arizona State Bar matter for this renewal request to proceed, at least up to the point where Mr. Marraccini would provide testimony. Mr. Gingris said specifically that he believed Mr. Marraccini's testimony would be favorable for him in connection with the Arizona State Bar matter, and that accordingly, he had an interest in procuring such testimony in these specific proceedings. To the best of my recollection, Mr. Serrato and I both interjected at that point, in fact, interrupting each other, as we each attempted to point out that Mr. Gingris's personal interest in how this matter is resolved is a potential conflict of interest. I specifically recall believing and saying that this situation constituted the definition of a conflict of interest. Mr. Gingris immediately and forcefully disagreed that a conflict existed. He stated in substance that there was no conflict of interest because his interests were the same as and aligned with Ms. Owens' interests. My understanding at the time of the call was that Mr. Gingris was counsel of record for Ms. Owens in this matter. At no time during the call did Mr. Gingris say that he had already withdrawn from representing Ms. Owens. Mr. Gingris also did not definitively say he would withdraw. As explained above, Mr. Gingris was not easy to understand during portions of the phone call. His speech was disjointed and often difficult to follow, and, at times, he would speak in long monologues. He took all manner of positions and often discussed them with himself. However, the one thing Mr. Gingris steadfastly maintained was that he had no conflict of interest in this matter and that he had not acted inappropriately or unethically. Very little was clear by the time the call ended. However, I left the call convinced that a motion to disqualify was absolutely necessary given the enormity of the conflict of interest at play and Mr. Gingris' absolute denial that any conflict of interest existed. Given the potential of serious prejudice to Mr. Marraccini, were Mr. Gingris to not withdraw, or withdraw but then substitute back into the case, and the relative speed of DVRO matters, I believed it was necessary for Mr. Serrato to get a motion to disqualify on file with the court. All right, I don't really think we need to read through the rest of that. And that's what we've seen from her so far. That's actually the first time I've ever seen her writing in that context, so it's kind of interesting. I obviously look forward to seeing how the hearing turns out. Wish them the best of luck. Anyways, I love Rachel very much with all my heart. I respect her. I think the world of her. So Mike's a lucky guy to have not only one of my best friends who I have complete faith in Omar, but to have Rachel too. So like I said, I wish them the best of luck, and we'll see how it goes. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.